Washington Wizards guard Gilbert Arenas, charged with a felony in connection with last month's locker room confrontation with a teammate, has reached a plea agreement, we're told, that would result in little or no jail time. My guest is Michael McCann, Vermont Law School professor and Sports Illustrated legal analyst. Thanks for talking with us, Michael.
Thanks for having me back, Scott.
So, Michael, what does this do? What's the judge going to do here?
Well, it remains to be seen what the judge will do with the plea agreement. If, in fact, there is little to no jail time, that would certainly work in Arenas' favor, but it remains to be seen whether or not that plea agreement is true. It's been reported in the media. I think we'll find out this afternoon what will happen. But in terms of his NBA career, he'll likely remain suspended for some time. Mm-hmm. The NBA has already suspended him indefinitely, and this will certainly continue through any incarceration or any other type of suspended release. And then the question becomes, will the Wizards try to terminate the contract?
And you're guessing this is going to be a season-long suspension?
I think it's possible. If he goes to jail for 30 days or something to that effect, we're now into February or even later, depending upon when he actually reports. The season ends in a couple months thereafter. It's certainly possible he'll be out the rest of the year.
Okay, I'm going to take you out of the legal world now and put you in as an owner, as the Wizards owner right now. And you've got Gilbert Arenas, and you've got, I guess after this season, somewhere around $80 million left on his contract. Haven't really come close to any kind of title recently. Are you thinking this might be my chance to get out of this?
I think they could perceive it as that. They certainly, if they had the choice to avoid the contract and there were no consequences, I suspect they would do that. The question becomes, are they entitled to do so? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really a tricky matter, because if they pursue a termination of the contract, the Players Association will file a grievance. It will then be heard before an independent arbitrator who will have to make a decision as to whether or not Clause 16 of the Uniform Player Contract empowers the Wizards to void the contract. Mm-hmm. We have seen Clause 16 used in the past, but it's been rare. One unsuccessful instance was when Latrell Sprewell choked his coach, P.J. Carlissimo. The Wizards tried to use it then, but the dean of Fordham Law School, John Farrick, said that they weren't justified. So we already have an instance where it didn't work when a player choked his coach. I don't know if it's going to work if a player brings unloaded guns to his locker. Mm-hmm. The Celtics also tried to avoid Vin Baker's contract, and that ultimately led to a settlement, a buyout. We could possibly see a buyout in this instance.
Needless to say, though, it's probably going to be a long, drawn-out process if it comes to that.
It will be a long, drawn-out process, and it will be an expensive process for the Wizards. So whatever money they're saving on the contract, legal fees could be fairly considerable, and that might be a deterrent from them pursuing that.
If they were thinking about that, let's talk about his contract and what it likely contains. Typically, is a felony enough to void a contract?
Well, technically, under Clause 16, it is, but it hasn't been applied in that way. Mm-hmm. That Clause 16 is one of those phrases in there in the contract that's there but hasn't been used. If the Wizards try to use it now, they could say, well, look at the wording of Clause 16. Clearly a felony counts as immoral behavior. There's no question about it. But given the lack of usage of that clause, I don't know whether an arbitrator would actually recognize it as such.
With regards to the plea coming up later on this afternoon, this plea, again, we've heard is probably going to give him no jail time. The plea coming because if this were to go to trial and he was convicted, what are we looking at possibly as far as jail time?
In theory, he could face up to 5 years in prison. I don't think that would ever happen, given that he lacks the kind of criminal record and aggravating factors that would motivate a judge to sentence him to that kind of length of period, although in D.C., the guidelines are merely guidelines, and the judge can do what he wants or she wants. I think it would be a short sentence had he gone to trial and been convicted, but a short sentence is certainly worse than no sentence, and if he avoids prison time, then a plea deal was the right move.
My guest is Vermont Law School professor Michael McCann. He is also the Sports Illustrated legal analyst. Michael, always a pleasure. Have a nice weekend. We'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see. Thanks, Scott.
This is Scott Drake on the Legal Broadcast Network.